Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Back with a Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. I'm here to do Phillis Wick Revisited, a character retrospective about the character of Phillis Wick, Sarah's original governess in 1795. Now, there are going to be some things I do with this video that I really did not do with the first video. The first time I did this character, I was more comparing her to Vicky Winters, what Vicky's journey was like more so than Phyllis's. And a lot of that is because, truth be told, we don't know how similar or different Phyllis Wick's journey, literally is in 1795. Is it the same exact way? I'm going to say no, other than the end of it. And I'm going to take a quote directly from Barnabas here, and that is this is probably his most reliable narration ever. And that is, she was to be hanged. Phyllis Wick, he's talked about, was to be hanged the night his coffin was taken to the mausoleum and chained. Now, that being said, he also, and Julia says, if Phyllis Wick knew, then, and Barnabas finishes her sentence, and Victoria must know too. By that implication, Phyllis Wick knows that Barnabas is a vampire. Phyllis Wick knew in 1795, or at least that's how I took that. So where does Phyllis Wick's journey really begin? Well, let's get one thing very clear here. Phyllis Wick is not, for those who have never watched Dark Shadows or whatever, this, because Dark Shadows gets into time travel, Victoria Winters does switch places with Phyllis Wick. Time in the present is frozen. This will be the one time I mention Vicky here. So Phyllis Wick is in the future, time is frozen. Vicky goes back into the past and becomes the governess. Now, I'm not going to talk about Vicky here. I'm going to talk about Phyllis. I'm going to treat it as if Phyllis and Vicky never switched places and what I believe happened. Now, I want to make this very clear. This is completely opinionated. I have nothing to back this up. Most of it, I have nothing to back it up. I'm going to start at the overturned carriage. To me, with the writers writing that in, and by the way, this isn't the only thing that happens on the road to Collinwood, or to Collinsport for that matter. Phyllis Wick's overturned carriage. Phyllis Wick survives. She stumbles to Collinwood, not really knowing why she's going there, because in my mind, if you're the writers, and I'm going to talk about what I think their decision would have been if they would have ever told the story of Phyllis Wick, would have been to give her amnesia, not knowing who the hell she is, because it would have made sense. And from a storyteller standpoint, you have to have things make some sort of goddamn sense. Now, by the way, Barnabas does not know what Phyllis Wick looks like. He just knows that there is a woman coming to be Sarah's governess. In fact, he thinks, I know when Vicky shows up, instead of it, he goes, "Are you Sarah's governess?" Because Sarah drew a picture of her governess. So when Barnabas comes out of the old house this time, and it's Phyllis Wick collapses in Barnabas's arms. Sarah says, that's my governess. So see, I drew a picture of her. So you have some similarity there, but here's a woman who walked from an overturned carriage with no memory of who she is and why she's here. Not in her own time band, but who she is as a person and why she came to this house, why she instinctively came to this house. We know that Naomi Collins, played by Joan Bennett, knows Phillis Wick by sight. She met Phillis Wick prior to hiring her. So this is a woman who can positively identify the woman who collapsed in Barnabas's arms. Not saying that's what really happened. I'm hypothesizing this whole fucking thing. I'm having a bad day too. So humor me. That Naomi identifies, hey, that's Phillis Wick. That is Sarah's governess. Well, she can't remember who she is. And the people who are going to make that counter argument most is going to be Abigail Collins, where we saw Abigail be worried about Phillis Wick because, oh, well, poor Miss Wick, she never arrived here. Oh, it's all her fault. Pointing at Vicky, that it's Vicky's fault. Well, here is Phillis Wick. Phillis Wick doesn't know who the hell she is because she has amnesia from the overturned carriage. Eventually, she starts to remember certain things about the overturned carriage. Oh, there was this violent storm, and it hit a tree, and it scared the horse, and the horse ran and went too fast and took the corner, and the carriage overturned. So she starts to remember what happened. And then she does, and then she realizes who she is. I would say this would last 3 to 4 episodes. Keep in mind, we also hear from Angelique that that Josette's carriage got delayed because of the roads. So, and what the writers are really doing with that little tidbit, remember the accident with Birkenham, with Roger Birkenham? The road to Collinwood has always been treacherous. They're sort of implying that the roads have always been dangerous. So be careful. Which I like that little subplot there that you're sort of cementing in a sense. When does Abigail accuse Phillis? Is she the one who brings Reverend Trask? And is it Abigail and Trask versus Phillis Wick? Keep in mind, there's no Collins family history book. This isn't a woman from time. This isn't a woman who is going to realize who she is going to be able to tell you, okay, here's where I'm from. Here's who knows me. So this isn't the same thing as Victorian Winters. This wouldn't be a woman who people wouldn't know who she was. Even if Joan Bennett's character wouldn't have been able to testify for her, because we don't know if that's the same, because Joan Bennett's Naomi did testify for Vicky. So we got to believe she testified for Phillis because she hired her. What the biggest question or questions is, when was Phillis Wick arrested? When was she taken in by Trask? And I'm going to give you the moment. I believe Phillis Wick was there at least when Barnabas shot Angelique. Or at least the aftermath of it. I think she walks into the house. She hears the shooting. She comes downstairs like, what's the commotion? And sees the two bodies. She runs out. She's so worried about Barnabas and Angelique. She doesn't know that Angelique's a witch. Um, Ben's the one who does tell him, hey, just like in the original, well, I'll keep that. And you might say, why don't I place Phillis Wick in jail here? Phillis Wick is not in jail because Barnabas is hiding her away from Trask the way he did Vicky. But he's not. He may not be hiding her in the old house. He might be hiding her somewhere else. Okay. Now she runs out the house to get help. She runs into Ben. Ben, they're in there. They're you got to help them. You got to help them. And she stays in the woods. And what Ben doesn't realize is Trask followed him, and Trask gets her and takes her into custody, enabling Barnabas to help her. Now, I would also say that what the person who was to defend Vicky, maybe he doesn't defend Phillis because he sees that the Collins family is not involved in this, and he does not want to damage his reputation. He might not like Trask, but the Collins family, for the most part, other than what Barnabas was doing for Vicky, stay out of the trial. Maybe the trial doesn't actually start until Barnabas is bitten. And with that, Barnabas can't show up at the courthouse because why? Phillis knows he got bit, or he at least suspects, or Phillis saw him laying there dying. Him and Angelique. Maybe she was a witness to certain events that Vicky was not, because Vicky was by the time that happens, actually that's what causes Barnabas to shoot Angelique, because he knows Angelique's a witch. He hears her performing a spell. Is that what catches him here? Her here? No, what I think catches the slight difference that you would get is that he would find Sarah's doll in Angelique's room. Why would the doll be in Angelique's room? He keeps finding things that cause him to question Angelique. And Ben just confirms his suspicion. I would say that's the slight difference, because it can't be exactly the same way. And I say that because the look on Barnabas's face when Dr. Hoffman says Phillis Wick knew, like, Barnabas's face is like, yeah, she knew, and Vicky must know too. If if Phillis knew, Vicky must know too. Well, why would Phillis know? What would cause Phillis to know that? She would have had to have been there either when you got bit, saw the body, keep in mind, Angelique is on the ground. Maybe it wasn't Ben who first saw the bodies. Maybe it was Phillis Wick, and Phillis runs into Ben, into the woods. Ben, you got to help him. They're there. You got to help Barnabas. Oh my God, he shot Angelique. Maybe I always say about less is best, less information. The less you know, the better off you are. Maybe Barnabas does not, because again, Barnabas is just getting confirmation from Ben when it's Vicky. Maybe he's just getting confirmation from Ben when it's Phillis. Maybe that's the same. So he doesn't tell. So to really end the scandal, because if he goes to Trask, even though it's not necessarily about like or dislike, it's about family honor. The Collinses are all about honor and pride, and they're not afraid to put a bullet in you. Though Barnabas is a horrible shot. So, and like I said, when Ben Stokes and Phillis Wick run into one another, she watches Ben go toward the old house. Well, Trask follows Ben, like, okay, what's Ben doing out? And catches Phillis and just worries about Phillis instead, not what's going on at the old house, and takes her to jail. This causes Phillis Wick's trial. This causes him to accuse her of the witchcraft that's been going on. Josette's death, even Josette's death is piled upon her, but there's not enough evidence of that. And she's to be hanged. Now, what would have been the defining moment? Well, Sarah's death is recorded as illness. I would say Abigail's death would be the one. Maybe they included that here. Maybe because, again, we're never told in the history book what Abigail's death actually is. We know what it is as an audience, but the reason we're never told is because maybe it got piled on for Phillis. We don't know. There are things we know less about Phillis Wick's experience. We know all about Vicky's. All about Victoria's. And if Barnabas, gives the facial expression, well, Phillis knew, well, maybe that's why Phillis is shocked to see Barnabas. Because when was the last time she saw Barnabas? Lying on the floor dying. So when she sees him, it's like she's kind of terrified. Like, you should not be here. You shouldn't be in the future. So that's, in my opinion, that's what might have happened. Again, it's just, I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on this. What do you believe happened to Phillis? Because I don't believe it was exactly what happened to Vicky. Not all of it. Because Vicky and Phillis Wick are not the same people. They're not. One's from another time. One isn't. You're not accusing a woman. Phillis Wick doesn't have. Sorry. Phillis Wick doesn't have strange clothing from another time. She doesn't have writing on her clothes that are washing machine dryer. What you do to wash your clothes. Those would not be, her clothes wouldn't be evidence that she's from another time. She doesn't have a history book with her the way Vicky does. So what exactly is the evidence against Phillis Wick? It wouldn't be the book. It wouldn't be the clothes. Is it the overturned carriage? Is that part of it? Is her losing her memory, then suddenly getting back? Is it the disappearance of Joshua? And then Joshua reappearing? Is it Jeremiah's and Barnabas's duel? What's the other than witchcraft? I get witchcraft as the charge, but what specifically with Phillis are the exact charges of witchcraft? What is it that they are charging against her? We know what ammunition Trask is using against Vicky. What's the ammunition he has against Phillis? So I ponder that question to you. Um, you folks have a nice day.